My name is Rachel Lynn Carpenter, and I've spent most of my adult life being invisible at my own family gatherings. Not forgotten, not excluded, just unnoticed in that polite, Midwestern way where people ask about your dog instead of your job, or tell you you're so selfless instead of asking how you're really doing. I suppose I got used to it. You do, when you're the oldest daughter in a loud, achievement-obsessed Indiana family where success comes in two forms: marriage or money. My younger brother Ethan? He chose both. He's the golden child, the one who somehow got praised for everything from his first internship to his lawn care business that ran for 3 whole months. And when he announced his engagement to Kelsey Wren Madison, yes, both names, the whole town practically curtsied. Local news ran a story on her nonprofit gala. My mom printed it out and laminated it. No one mentioned the $28,000 loan that helped get Ethan through business school, or the person who gave it to him. They wouldn't dare, because that person was me. And because I had the audacity to ask him, once, if he'd ever pay it back, he decided I was ungrateful. I didn't expect an apology, but I also didn't expect to be publicly humiliated at the one event where I thought maybe, just maybe, I could feel like part of the family again. The night he announced his engagement, at a catered event my parents threw in their backyard, strung with fairy lights and Chablis-only wine buckets, he raised his glass and made a toast that split me clean in half. To everyone who believed in me from day one, he said, smiling at his fiancée's parents. And to Kelsey, for showing me what a real partnership looks like. Some people warned me I wouldn't make it, that I was wasting my time. But those voices are quiet now, aren't they? His eyes landed on me when he said it, held there for just 1 second too long. And I swear, the air turned to ice in my throat. My mom clapped. My dad nodded like he'd just heard scripture. No one noticed me slowly set my wine glass down, or the way I excused myself to the guest bathroom and locked the door for 10 full minutes. He wasn't just rewriting history. He was erasing me from it. But what Ethan didn't know, and what the rest of the Carpenters had conveniently forgotten, was that the biggest reason he got to that microphone at all was sitting quietly in the back, holding the very check that saved him from dropping out. And I wasn't going to stay invisible much longer. We weren't always like this, Ethan and I. There was a time when he'd sneak Pop-Tarts into my backpack on test days and wait for me outside the dentist office, just because I hated the fluoride rinse. He was 4 years younger, but always acted like the older one, braver, louder, somehow already coded in the kind of charm that made teachers overlook missed homework and let him retake quizzes on Mondays. I was the opposite. I followed rules like they were commandments and wore navy blue like it was a personality. He got the charm. I got the loans. And when Mom went back to work and Dad started sleeping in his recliner full-time, it was me who made the lunches and checked the homework. Me who walked Ethan to the bus stop and stayed up typing his first college essay because he had a migraine. That night, he cried into my shoulder and called me the best sister in the world. 2 weeks later, he got into Indiana University on a scholarship, but it only covered partial tuition. When he called me in a panic that first spring semester, I didn't hesitate. "I'll take out a personal loan," I said. "You just keep going." $28,000. That was the final number by the time he graduated. I made the payments. I rearranged my hours at the pharmacy. I said no to the first apartment I loved and yes to a roommate who collected antique dolls and whistled in her sleep. He called me once, the night before his graduation. "I won't forget this," he said. "I promise." Funny how promises expire the minute spotlights turn on. Kelsey happened 2 years later. And I swear, from the moment she met Ethan, he stopped remembering anything that came before her. She was flawless, in that unshakable way women can be when they've never had to serve a customer or check a bank balance twice. Her family owned a chain of assisted living centers across the Midwest. She referred to the waitstaff as friend and called her dogs her children. She was also, to her credit, disarmingly kind and completely unaware of my existence. At dinner once, she asked if I was Ethan's older cousin. He didn't correct her. He just laughed. By the time the engagement rolled around, I knew better than to expect anything. But I didn't expect to be thrown under the bus either. That toast? That lingering look? It was his way of making sure I stayed in my place. Not just out of the spotlight, but out of the story entirely. But the thing is, when someone tries to erase you, all you have to do is hold up the receipts. And I had all of them. Bank statements, transfer logs, certified payment history from Citizens Credit Union. And the original signed loan agreement I made him write out by hand, just for clarity, back when I still believed in clarity. I never planned to use it. Until that night, when I stood in the backyard beneath fairy lights and laughter and watched my brother raise a glass to everyone but me, I knew something had shifted. I didn't want revenge. I wanted acknowledgement. And I was finally ready to demand it. The morning after the engagement party, I woke up to a group photo from the event, posted by my cousin on Facebook. Everyone was in it. My brother, Kelsey, their perfectly color-coordinated friends, my parents, even Ren Madison's. Everyone's smiling like they'd just closed a real estate deal. I was cropped out. Literally. In the original, I could see my elbow on the edge of the frame, my navy blue sleeve, awkwardly cut. But in the posted version, the photo had been cleaned up, cropped tighter, more polished. I stared at it for a full minute, heart knocking against my ribs in that quiet, desperate way it does when you're trying not to be dramatic. Then I laughed. Because of course, I was erased, not just from his speech, but from the record. From the narrative. From the story of how Ethan made it. He didn't make it. He was carried. And I was the one who carried him. But the funny thing about erasure? It only works if the person being erased agrees to disappear. And I was done disappearing. That week, I pulled out the manila folder I'd tucked in the back of my closet 3 years earlier. The one marked Ethan Loan Agreement. I opened it slowly, almost ceremoniously, like I needed the act to remind me I was still part of the story. There it was. Copy of the original $5,000 transfer dated March 2017. Follow-up installments, $7,200, $3,500, $2,800, $9,500. My final payment, $28,000 in total. A handwritten IOU. I, Ethan James Carpenter, agreed to repay my sister Rachel Lynn Carpenter the amount borrowed. His signature was there. So was mine. I'd never shown it to anyone. Never brought it up again after that graduation night phone call when he said he'd never forget it. But silence doesn't mean surrender. And I wasn't planning to shame him publicly. That's not who I am. I didn't want to throw a glass of wine or call him out during a toast. But I also wasn't going to keep smiling while he built a castle on my foundation and then pretended I was the dirt beneath it. So, I made a decision. I'd go to the next event. And I'd bring the check with me. Not to wave around. Not to start drama. Just to return it with an update. The opportunity came faster than expected. A week later, I got a text from my mom. Hope you can come to Kelsey's bridal brunch next Sunday. It's at the Ren Madison estate. Starts at 11. Would mean a lot to Ethan. Right. Because nothing says meaningful like a mimosa bar in a converted greenhouse. I almost deleted the message. Almost typed, I'll pass, and hit send. But then I remembered the look in Ethan's eyes during that toast. The way he said some people warned me, like he was doing me a favor just by letting me breathe the same air. I texted back. Wouldn't miss it. Then I called in a favor from a friend who worked in event staffing, got the layout of the Ren Madison estate. Knew exactly which entrance the vendors used. I had no intention of showing up flashy. I wanted quiet presence. Quiet clarity. I bought a new navy jumpsuit. Nothing dramatic. Just fitted, clean, professional. I put my hair in a low twist and wore flat shoes so I wouldn't sink into their manicured lawn. And in my leather bag, I slipped the folder with the loan documents, along with a sealed envelope addressed to Ethan. The Ren Madison estate sat like a movie set on the edge of a golf course, all limestone arches and curated ivy. I parked down the street and walked. My heels clicked against the slate driveway as I approached the welcome table. A planner with an iPad greeted me. Name? Rachel Carpenter, I said. She scanned the list, gave a plastic smile. Oh, you're Ethan's sister? I nodded. Nice to meet you, she said, blinking like I'd just told her I was Kelsey's dry cleaner. You're not on the guest list for the front brunch, but we've got overflow seating near the back garden. Overflow. I swallowed my pride like a pit in my throat and smiled. Perfect. She led me through a narrow flagstone path and pointed to a row of chairs beneath a trellis. Only two others were occupied, a caterer's sister and someone from Kelsey's old book club. I sat quietly, watching waiters pour champagne, Kelsey flutter from guest to guest, and my brother, Ethan, bask in the kind of effortless popularity I'd never quite figured out how to fake. When our eyes met across the lawn, something in him flickered. Not guilt, not surprise, annoyance, like my presence had thrown off his symmetry. I held his gaze for 2 full seconds. Then I smiled. He looked away. After the toast, this one even worse than the last. Here's to those who never needed to borrow anyone's belief to rise. I waited until the crowd began to drift toward the photo booth. That's when I stood up, walked calmly to the catering tent where Ethan was pretending to check the menu with the head chef, and tapped his shoulder. He turned, already half frowning. "Hey, Ratch," he said, fake bright. "Didn't know you were coming." "Guess I slipped through the overflow list," I replied. He scratched his neck.
"Sorry about that."
"It's been crazy. Kelsey's mom handled most of the invites." I nodded, then reached into my bag. "I won't stay. I just came to return this." I handed him the sealed envelope. He stared at it like it might bite. "What's this?" "Just something I've held onto long enough." He looked at me. "Rachel, if this is about the money." "It's not," I said, calm and clear. "It's about the truth. You don't owe me the check anymore. But you do owe me honesty. And dignity." He flushed. "You're making a scene?" "No," I said, stepping back. "I'm making a statement." Then I walked away. I didn't look back. Because I didn't need to. He was already holding everything I needed him to see. It only took 24 hours for the envelope to work its way through the family bloodstream. By Monday morning, I had 3 missed calls from my mother, a text from Aunt Mary Ann that just said, "Was that really necessary?" and a voicemail from Ethan. Short, sharp, vaguely panicked.
"Hey,
"Can we talk? Call me back." I didn't. Instead, I went to work, scanned prescriptions, handled insurance calls, smiled at people picking up antibiotics for their toddlers and Lipitor for their dads. I didn't need a reply, because the letter wasn't meant for a response. It was a mirror, and whether Ethan looked into it or smashed it, that was up to him. But what I didn't expect was the one person who actually knocked on my door that evening. Kelsey. It was just after 8 p.m. when I heard the knock. 2 quick raps, hesitant. I opened it to find her standing there in her camel coat, hair in a perfect braid, holding a white envelope and a reusable grocery bag. She blinked.
"Eat."
I stepped aside. "Kelsey, I hope this isn't weird. I didn't tell Ethan I was coming." I raised an eyebrow. "That explains the non-firing squad." She smiled weakly. "I brought lemon poppy seed muffins." I stared at the grocery bag. "Don't worry," she said. "They're from a real bakery." "I can't cook." I let her in. She looked around my small apartment like she'd just stepped into a foreign country. Not with judgment, but curiosity. Her eyes lingered on my bookshelf, my old record player, a framed photo of me and Ethan as kids on the side table, half buried behind a stack of mail. "I didn't know he borrowed money from you," she said finally, sitting on the edge of my couch. I shrugged. "You weren't supposed to." She turned the envelope in her hands, the one I'd given Ethan, unopened. "He gave it to me," said he didn't know what to do with it. "Maybe start with the truth," I said.
Kelsey was quiet.
Then she said, "He's not great at shame." I laughed once, bitter and surprised. "You think?" She looked up at me. I read it. The note. The timeline. The payments. "Rachel, you saved him." Like literally. He told me he almost dropped out that year. I had no idea how close it got. "That's the thing about invisible help," I said. "It doesn't show up in speeches." That Friday, the Wren Madisons hosted a pre-wedding dinner at their country club. I hadn't planned to go. I'd RSVP'd, no, out of self-preservation. But then, 2 hours before the event, I got another text from Ethan. Just 4 words. Please come tonight. Please. No period.
No sarcasm.
Just a raw, rattled kind of plea that felt different. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I got dressed. Same navy jumpsuit.
No makeup.
Hair back.
No armor, no gloves. Just me.
When I arrived at the country club, something felt off. The air was tight with expectation. Guests turned to look at me as I walked in, but not with disdain. With recognition. As if they'd been told a story. And were waiting for its final chapter. Ethan found me near the coat check. He looked tired. Not from wedding stress, from something deeper. Thank you for coming, he said, voice low. I almost didn't. I know. He hesitated. Then held up a folded piece of paper, clearly something he'd just printed. I'd like to read something tonight, if that's okay. I frowned. Why are you asking me? Because it's your story, too. Dinner was plated and polished. Taper candles. Glass stemware. Charcuterie boards that looked like magazine ads. The speeches were scheduled between the second and third courses. Kelsey went first. A gracious, glowing toast full of love and laughter. Then Ethan stood. He held the microphone like it weighed more than it should. I've been lucky in a lot of ways, he started. I've had people believe in me even when I didn't earn it. I've had second chances I never deserved. And I've had the privilege of being seen, celebrated, for things I didn't build alone. He paused, looked down at his paper. I made a mistake recently. A big one. I erased someone from my story who deserved more than just a line. I minimized the very person who made my path possible. There was a shift in the room.
Folkstilling, murmelsholzing.
I want to publicly acknowledge that everything I've achieved, from finishing college to building my first business, happened because of my sister, Rachel Carpenter. My chest locked. I sat frozen, unable to move, barely breathing. She loaned me $28,000 over 3 years. She rearranged her life to do it. And I repaid that kindness by pretending she didn't exist. By making jokes. By cropping her out, literally and figuratively. He looked directly at me. I was wrong. A hush blanketed the room. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a certified check. Sealed, stamped. This doesn't fix it, but it's a start. He walked to my table, placed the check in front of me. And if you'll let me, I'd like to tell the rest of the story with you in it. I didn't speak. I just stared at him. For the first time in years, my little brother looked small. Not weak. Not pitiful. Just human. And that, more than the money, more than the admission, that was what I needed most. It's been 10 months since the dinner at the country club. I never cashed the check. Not because I didn't need the money. I absolutely did. But because Ethan and I both knew this wasn't just about a dollar amount. It was about what the money had symbolized, what it had quietly cost me. Cashing that check would have felt like a transaction. What I needed was transformation. And believe it or not, he gave me that. Just not in the way either of us expected. A month after the wedding, Ethan called me and asked if I'd meet him for coffee. Not brunch. Not lunch.
Coffee.
At a small place near the community center, the kind of spot that still had laminated menus and $2 refills. He was already there when I arrived, in jeans and a hoodie, nervously stirring sugar into his cup. I want to make something right, he said, before I even sat down. I thought the speech was a good start. He shook his head. I don't mean in front of people. I mean in practice. I raised an eyebrow. You work at the pharmacy, he said. You've always wanted to start something of your own, right? Something with more flexibility, more ownership. Yeah, I said slowly. But it's not that simple. What if I helped with the startup costs? Quietly. No one needs to know. You pick the business, the structure, the name. I'm not buying control, I'm returning it. You used your credit to lift me once. Let me do the same for you now. I stared at him. This wasn't guilt. It wasn't performative. It was a sincere offer. To rebalance, not to repay. I nodded once. Let me think about it. And I did. 4 months later, I opened a mobile medication consulting service, helping elderly patients and their families understand prescriptions, side effects, and drug interactions. Something no chain pharmacy, had time for. Something that actually mattered. Ethan helped me set up the business plan. Kelsey helped design the logo. The first client I booked was a woman whose husband had 6 prescriptions and early dementia. She cried when I sat with her at the kitchen table and explained every pill in his organizer.
No ruse. No upsell. Just care.
It felt like oxygen. Like I'd finally remembered what my own voice sounded like. I named the service side by side. And I didn't put my last name on the branding. Because this wasn't about being a carpenter anymore. It was about being myself. Ethan and I still have our moments. He still forgets birthdays unless his calendar reminds him. He still thinks quick phone calls can be done on Bluetooth while he's driving through a car wash. But he shows up now. He checks in. And when people mention the wedding toast, he always brings up the second one, the one that mattered. At our most recent family gathering, a 4th of July barbecue at my parents' place, he pulled me aside near the grill. Mom still thinks I wrote that speech just to impress Kelsey's dad, he said. Did you? He grinned. Maybe a little. I rolled my eyes, but I smiled. By the way, he added, Kelsey's pregnant. My heart jumped. Are you ready for that? Not even remotely, he said. But I was hoping maybe when the time comes, you'd be the one to teach me how to swaddle a baby without breaking its arms. I snorted. Deal. Then he leaned closer. You know what I told Kelsey when we talked about baby names? What? That if it's a girl, I want her middle name to be Rachel. For a second, I forgot how to breathe. Then I nodded. And for the first time since we were kids, I hugged him without hesitation. We often think revenge looks like fire, like getting even. But sometimes, the softest kind of revenge is refusing to disappear. It's speaking up, showing up, and rewriting yourself back into the story with your head held high. I never wanted applause. Or a podium. Or a toast with my name in it. I just wanted truth.
And now?
Now it lives quietly in the spaces between our family's memories, and this time, I made sure I was in the frame.